Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Sam Munroe. Welcome to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be using my shark and marine biology knowledge to react to the movie Jaws. Hey everybody, my name is Dr. Sam Munroe and I am an ecologist. That means I study plants and animals and how they interact with their environment. I have studied all sorts of creatures, everything from sharks to shrimps to shrubs, and here on YouTube I like to create videos about what it's like to be a scientist, but also break down ecology in the media and talk about what they get right and wrong. I am really excited because today we are going to be watching the movie Jaws and talking about all of the things that the movie gets right and wrong about shark ecology. Now, I absolutely love sharks. I have been obsessed with them ever since I was a kid, and I loved them so much that when I grew up, I decided I wanted to study them for a living. So I moved all the way from Canada to Australia, and I decided to do a PhD studying sharks living near the Great Barrier Reef. Studying sharks was easily one of the best times of my life. I got to look at all aspects of their ecology. In particular, I was looking at the types of habitats they like to use and the food they like to eat, with the goal being able to use that information to help protect them from extinction. And like so many other shark ecologists, I have a real love-hate relationship with the movie Jaws. When I was a kid, this movie really started my obsession with sharks. The first time I saw this movie, I was 8 years old, and I just thought it was really cool. But unfortunately, this movie isn't very scientifically accurate when it comes to depicting shark behavior, and it started a lot of really damaging myths and ideas about what sharks are really like. So with that in mind, I thought it would be really fun for us to watch this movie together, and we can talk about the parts of the movie that sometimes are scientifically accurate, but also a lot of the things that the movie just gets plain wrong about shark behavior. Ah, such a good shark POV shot, right? Really makes you afraid for her in this moment, but actually pretty scientifically accurate. Many species of shark, white sharks included, will attack their prey from underneath them, and what they'll do is they'll swim at a much lower depth than the prey that they're trying to attack that might be somewhere near the surface. And then they will shoot up almost like a rocket straight up from underneath them and try and grab them, kind of like what the POV shot in this film is showing us. And the reason they use this strategy for attack is because it really increases the chances of successful prey capture. By swimming below their prey, it's much harder for their prey to see them and even know that they are there. So it gives them an element of surprise. But also, by swimming along the bottom and then very quickly coming straight up and attacking them, again, you have that element of surprise. They don't see you coming. But you also hit your prey with an enormous amount of force. So not only are they completely shocked that they've just been attacked, but they also really get knocked out potentially and completely thrown off guard by this really forceful attack. And both of those things increase the chances of a successful prey capture for that shark. Now you might be wondering, why does a shark, especially a white shark that is quite large, need to worry about being sneaky and remaining unseen right before they attack? But actually a lot of shark prey items, like seals, are pretty good at defending themselves, and they're very fast. Seals are really fast and agile, so if they see that shark coming, they may be able to twist and move and get out of the way. But also, seals have pretty sharp teeth, so they could potentially bite at the vulnerable parts of a shark, like their eyes or gills. So even a really big white shark wants to prevent that from happening. So a sneak attack strategy where they swim along the bottom and come up really fast is a great way to avoid getting hurt and catch your prey quickly.
Slow down. The record was the marathon.
Martin, you gonna shut down the beaches on your own authority?
Well, what other authority do I need?
Technically, you need a civic ordinance or a resolution by a board of selectmen.
That's just going by the book. We're really a little anxious that you're rushing into something serious here.
No, I would disagree that he's rushing into something serious. When there is a shark attack, the first, best, and safest thing that you can do is close the beaches for a period of time. It eliminates the possibility of a future attack. So him deciding to close the beaches, maybe he didn't do it by the book, but that is absolutely the right thing to do in this scenario. If nobody's in the water, nobody can get attacked. And following an attack, you really don't necessarily know what conditions led to the attack, so the smartest thing to do is just close the beaches.
I don't think you appreciate the gut reaction people have to these things.
Harry, I appreciate it. I'm just reacting to what I was told.
Martin, it's all psychological. You yell barracuda. Everybody says, huh? What? You yell shark. We've got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July.
You know, it's absolutely true. There are lots of marine creatures that are arguably more dangerous than sharks. Here in Australia, we have jellyfish called box jellyfish, and they have so much venom inside of them that if they were to touch you, it could absolutely kill you. So that, to me, is a much bigger threat to swimmers. But you know, people don't react psychologically the same way when you point out these other potential problems or other potential dangers in the ocean. The irony of all of this being, though, this movie is the reason people, for many people anyway, have this terrible reaction when people talk about sharks. They're automatically afraid.
Well, let's show Mr. Hooper our accident here.
Victim identified as Christine Watkins, female Caucasian.
Yeah, here's the way we have it.
Probable boating accident.
Yeah.
All right. The height and weight of the victim can only be estimated from the partial remains. The torso has been severed in mid-thorax. There are no major organs remaining. May I have a glass of water, please? Right arm has been severed above the elbow with massive tissue loss in the upper musculature. Thank you very much. Partially denuded bone remaining. This was no boat accident. Did you notify the Coast Guard about this? Indicates the non-frenzied feeding of a large squalus, possibly Longimanus or Asurus glaucus.
Sorry, I'm pretty sure that was gibberish. The fact that he's referring to the animal possibly being a squalus is interesting and not at all accurate, because a squalus is actually the scientific name of a group of sharks known as dogfish. A very long time ago, like in the 1750s, 1800s, I think they did refer to all sharks under the name squalus, but that was several hundred years ago. By the time this movie was made, that was completely out of date, and we don't refer to sharks as squalus anymore at all. And Dr. Hooper should have known that. So it is weird that he's referring to sharks as squalus. There also isn't any species called Asurus glaucus. Asurus is the genus of shark that includes mako sharks, which look similar to white sharks and are known for being the fastest shark in the ocean. But I don't think there's any species known as Asurus glaucus. So again, this is a strange moment in the movie where they're using scientific terminology, they're using scientific naming, but they're using it completely incorrectly.
What kind of a shark is it?
Gee, I don't know. I think it's a macaw.
Got a deep throat, Pratt.
Yeah, but what kind? What kind of shark?
It's a tiger shark.
A what?
Martin, there are all kinds of sharks in the waters, you know? Hammerheads, white tips, blues, makos. And the chances that these bozos got the exact shark...
now, there's
that
no
killed
other
those two
sharks
people-
like this in
Martin,
these waters.
It's 100 to 1. 100 to 1. Now, I'm not saying that this is not the shark. It probably is, Martin. It probably is.
Could be.
It's a man-eater. It's extremely rare for these waters.
Accurate.
But the
Accurate.
fact is that the bite radius on this animal is different than the wounds on the victim.
Bite radius.
I want to be sure.
That could be helpful.
You want to be sure. We all want to be sure, okay? And what I want to do is very simple. The digestive system of this animal is very, very slow.
Correct. Correct.
Let's cut it open. Whatever it's eaten in the last 24 hours is bound to still be in there, and then we'll be
Yes,
sure.
correct. So actually, there's a lot of good science happening in this scene that we can talk about. First of all, Dr. Hooper is absolutely correct. The chances of catching the shark that was involved in the attack are 100 to 1. To be honest, I'd probably put them at much worse odds than that. The types of sharks that are most commonly involved in attacks on people, like tigers and white sharks, are really mobile. They don't stay in one place for very long. So if you go out and you try and catch the shark that was involved in the attack, by the time you get organized and you're out there trying to catch it, that shark is probably long gone and you don't have any hope of catching the shark. Now, Dr. Hooper also rightly points out, though, that tiger sharks are known to be one of the few types of sharks that sometimes attack people. And a tiger shark, while certainly can be found off the coast of New York and New Jersey, where this fictional Amity Island exists, they would be certainly more rare. Tiger sharks tend to live in warm waters, so tropical and subtropical environments, and they might migrate further north when the waters are warmer, so maybe in the summer, or if there's a warm current, they can follow up north. So while they could catch a tiger shark in that area, that wouldn't be unheard of, they're certainly not as common as they are further south. The strategies that Dr. Hooper is using to work out if this was indeed the shark that attacked the swimmers are also pretty good strategies. Dr. Hooper is referring to something called the bite radius, and this is basically the size of the bite imprint that the shark leaves behind on a victim or sometimes an inanimate object like a surfboard. And we can compare the size of the bite radius or imprint that is left behind on a victim or object to the size of the mouth of the shark that we catch as a process of elimination to work out if that shark may have been involved in the attack. If the bite radius is of a similar size, then it's possible that shark was the shark that committed the attacks. But it's really important to understand that the bite radius can never be used to definitively identify if a specific shark attacked a particular person. And this is because it's really not an exact science. As I say, it's really more of a process of elimination. If the bite radius of the shark is much, much smaller than the imprint left behind during the attack, then we can be fairly confident that shark wasn't involved in the attack. But there's lots of different sharks with similar sized mouths, so it's entirely possible you could have a couple different sharks of a similar sized mouth, and you'd never be able to use the bite radius or imprint to say for sure if it was one particular shark. However, the second strategy he is suggesting, which is to look at the inside the stomach of the shark, is a great idea. Sharks do have very slow digestive systems, and the reason for this, we think, is because it provides them with a bit of an advantage out there in the open ocean. Sharks can actually go a really long time in between successful hunts. It may take them a while to find the prey they actually want to eat, and then they actually have to catch it. So they could go weeks without a meal. One way to prevent from starving to death when you're trying to find food is to have a really slow digestive system, because it lets the sharks extract every calorie, every little bit of nutrient that they possibly can out of their meal. And this sustains them for a longer period of time and lets them go for more time in between meals.
Listen, is it true that most people get attacked by sharks in 3 feet of water, about 10 feet from the beach?
Yeah, that's fairly accurate.
Yeah. And that before people started to swim for recreation, I mean before sharks knew what they were missing, that a lot of these attacks weren't reported. That's right.
Reporting of shark attacks was pretty poor up to about 100
Now this
years
shark
ago.
that swims alone,
Rogue.
what's it called? Rogue.
Nope.
This guy, he keeps swimming around in a place where the feeding is good until the food supply is gone, right?
It's called territoriality. It's just theory that I happen to agree with.
You shouldn't. It's terrible. This scene right here is potentially the worst scene in the whole movie from a scientific perspective, and it probably is the scene that did the most damage to sharks' reputations. In this scene, these guys are talking about this idea of a rogue shark, and essentially what they're talking about here is a shark that has developed a taste for human flesh and targets people deliberately and really wants to attack people rather than its normal prey like fish. But I want to be absolutely clear. There is precisely zero evidence to support the idea of a rogue shark. Let's use Australia as an example. We have a population of about 25 million people, and on average, there's somewhere between 15 to 20 shark attacks per year. But we are a nation of swimmers and beachgoers. We love scuba, snorkeling, spearfishing. We spend a lot of time in the water. We also have all three of the main species that are considered dangerous to people: tiger sharks, white sharks, and bull sharks. So if these sharks were deliberately targeting people, we would have a lot more shark attacks every year than we actually do. These kind of data tell us that there really aren't sharks out there that are deliberately going after people, or what the movie is describing as a rogue shark. Unfortunately, this movie really sold people on this idea of a rogue shark and made people believe that this was a real thing that scientists knew about and had studied. But this is one of the parts of the movie that is very much science fiction. There are no such thing as rogue sharks. There's no science to back this up. And this is an idea that shark scientists have had to spend decades fighting against.
Ben Gardner's boat. That's Ben Gardner's boat.
You know him?
It's all banged up. Sure, I know him. He's a fisherman. What happened?
Look, Martin, I've got to go down there and check their hull.
Wait a minute. Why don't we just tow it all in?
We will. I just got to check something out.
Dude, is your flashlight even on? Oh yeah, good. It's not a very good flashlight. Oh, it's a tooth. Do you know I've seen this movie like 100 times and I forgot he found a tooth? That's great from a scientific perspective, finding a tooth. That's a great find. Shark teeth are fantastic for diagnostic purposes if you want to work out what type of shark may have been involved in an attack. Sharks are constantly losing their teeth. They have 4 or 5 rows of teeth actually, and so they lose teeth every couple weeks and they have new teeth that regrow to replace them. And when you think about it, if all you have to explore your world is your mouth, it's a good idea to constantly be growing new strong teeth to replace the old ones. But what's great about that for shark scientists is sharks have really distinct teeth, so each species has a really distinct type of tooth. So we can actually identify sharks based on the teeth that they might leave behind, unfortunately in a victim or in an inanimate object like a surfboard. And based on the shape of that tooth that they're showing us, I would say, yeah, good chance that that is a white shark tooth.
This is a great white, Larry. A big one. And any shark expert in the world will tell you it's a killer. It's a man-eater.
We would not say that. That is not what we would say.
Shark has staked a claim in the waters off Amity Island. And he is going to continue to feed here as long as there is food in the water.
And there's no limit to what he's going to do. I mean, we've already had 3 incidents. 2 people killed inside of a week, and it's going to happen again. It happened before. The Jersey Beach.
1916, there were 5
people chewed up in the surf.
In 1 week.
Tell them about the swimmers.
I think we need to talk about this for a minute because they're referencing a historical event and we want to make sure we get this right. So what they're talking about here is a very famous shark attack that occurred off the New Jersey coast in 1916, where 5 people were attacked over a period of about 2 weeks. So right away, some of their numbers are a little bit wrong. The attacks didn't occur over a period of 1 week, it was a period of 2 weeks. And also it's worth mentioning that while 5 people were attacked, only 4 were killed, 1 survived. So they're tweaking the numbers a little bit, just I think basically to sell it and make a movie. But the really important thing here is the movie seems to be implying that it was 1 shark that committed all 5 of these attacks off the New Jersey coast. And the truth is, we have no idea if that's the case. It's entirely possible that it was a single shark that committed all of these attacks. But it is equally possible that it was different individual sharks that attacked different people and they just happened to coincide in time and space. It might seem strange to think that there could be multiple sharks committing multiple attacks in the same area. That may not seem likely, but we really don't know a lot about what potentially triggers shark attacks. And if you have a bunch of different sharks in the same place and the environmental conditions are such that it is triggering those attacks, it's possible you could have multiple sharks and multiple attacks. It's not necessarily just one individual shark. The reason this is important to talk about is because the movie is using this historic event as an argument that rogue sharks exist. But the truth is, there's really no solid scientific evidence to support the idea of a rogue shark. And these New Jersey attacks are really not evidence for this concept of a rogue shark.
Now wait a second. There are two ways to deal with this problem. You're either gonna kill this animal or you're gonna cut off its food supply.
Yeah, you know, again, 50-50. They're not really giving good solutions to this shark attack problem. First of all, closing the beaches is a good idea. I've talked about that earlier. If you want to keep people safe, you've got to close the beaches. But the other thing that they're suggesting, which is that we go out and we try and kill the specific shark that was involved in these attacks, it's probably not a good use of resources. Sharks, again, especially white sharks, are really mobile. They don't stay in one place for very long, particularly adults. So they might swim into a beach or swim into an area, feed a little bit, stay for a couple days, but then they're gone. So if you go out and you're trying to catch the shark that attacked these swimmers, that shark is probably long gone and you're never going to catch it. But let's say hypothetically that shark is still in the area. Even then, the odds of you catching the right shark are really small. Dr. Hooper already said it in the movie. The odds are 100 to 1. There would be tons of other sharks in the area, potentially other large sharks, and you're just as likely to catch one of them as you are the target shark that injured the swimmers.
Brody the Scut Bucket, please come in. Okay. Brody the Daisy, do you read me?
That's the name of it. Do you read me?
So, boats, I see nets.
Nothing here, Martin.
I see nets protecting the beaches.
nothing on
I
sonar.
see lots of boats. Those are all strategies that are commonly used to keep beaches safe.
Beautiful white sand beaches. But in recent days, a cloud has appeared on the horizon of this beautiful resort community. A cloud in the shape of a killer shark.
Unfortunately, that is accurate, how the media often talks about it. Oh, helicopters! Well, that's pretty accurate too. There's actually some fun things to talk about in just these couple scenes. So if there was potential for attacks, having spotter boats out there, absolutely good idea. I saw the nets. I think I saw some buoys or some nets in the water. Shark nets are commonly used at some beaches to prevent sharks from coming into the water. They're a very controversial way of keeping the beaches safe because they wind up catching a lot of animals like turtles or marine mammals, for example, and they can get killed when they're caught in the net. So I'm not personally a big fan of using shark nets to keep beaches safe. I think they do a lot more harm than good, but it is nonetheless accurate to see them protecting beaches. The helicopters that we see are also a very accurate and commonly used safety strategy at beaches where there might be sharks. Helicopters will fly parallel to the beach, and they have a great bird's eye view where they can just look down and hopefully see the silhouette or outline of that shark swimming at the surface of the water. If they see a shark, they can alert the lifeguards, or what sometimes they'll do is they will hover over the location where they see that shark, and sometimes they'll sort of start spinning around that area. And that lets everybody who's on the beach know, hey, there's a shark here, you need to get out of the water. That's no good. That would hurt.
Compressed air.
Yep.
Well, what the hell kind of a knot was that?
You pulled the wrong one. You screw around with these tanks and they're gonna blow up.
No,
Yes, real fine, expensive gear.
they absolutely will not blow up. This is another really bizarre myth that I think this movie perpetuated but is absolutely false, which is that if you shoot a scuba tank, which we'll talk about later, or you just damage a scuba tank in some way, it's going to explode. But they absolutely don't do that. Scuba tanks are compressed air, and the idea is that you compress the air down, it can hold a lot more in a small space, which allows you to breathe the air underwater for prolonged periods of time. So let's say hypothetically you manage to puncture a hole into that tank, which would be really hard to do, by the way, because they're very strong and really thick. But let's say you manage to do that. it's not going to explode. Rather, what's going to happen is all of that air is going to rush out of the tank at a really high speed with a lot of force, but it's not going to blow up. What could happen that would be potentially dangerous is all of the air rushing out of the tank would shoot the tank off in the opposite direction. So the tank itself could become a little projectile whipping around the boat deck, injuring people, which would be really scary and really dangerous, but it wouldn't explode.
Slow ahead. I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chump some of this.
Yeah, it's not the fun job when you're the person. Oh, there it is! There it is. See, the chum worked. Got attracted to the chum. But yeah, it's not a fun job when you're the one slugging that stuff. It smells real bad.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I would actually argue they're fine. I've been in really small boats that are only a couple meters, and we've caught 3-meter tiger sharks and still been able to work with that animal. So I think they'd actually be okay. As great as that line is, I think they actually have a perfect size boat.
Shut up that engine.
Ah, the music is so good. When I was doing my PhD and I had volunteers, I would play this music over speakers on the boat to get them psyched up to go on a shark fishing trip. They did not like it. Big shark.
That's a 20-footer.
25.
Possible. Unlikely.
3 tons on.
Maybe. So what they're doing here is they're trying to guesstimate how big this shark is from a distance, which frankly is not an accurate way to work out the size of a shark. But more importantly, the numbers that they're giving for the rough size of this shark aren't really true to life. Adult white sharks, as far as we know, reach a maximum length of around 6 meters, which is roughly 20 feet, which is what Hooper said in the film. So if the shark was 25 feet, which I think is just over 7 meters, maybe 7.5, that is bigger than any white shark that has ever been caught and recorded in history. In real life, we've never seen a white shark get to 25 feet in length. The longest we've seen is about 20 feet or 6 meters.
Kill it, quick. Kill it! Now! Shoot! Hey! What were you doing? You knew I had to get a clean shot right in the head.
So I guess the idea here with the barrels is that if you attach something like an empty barrel full of air, that's going to be really buoyant and it's going to make it impossible for that shark to dive down. It's going to force the shark to stay at the surface. Nope. Absolutely not. Yeah, no. In no universe would that be possible. The idea that the shark could somehow swim down deeply with that barrel attached to it is pretty ludicrous. Sharks are really strong, white sharks are really strong, they're very excellent divers, of course, but with that barrel, even just one barrel attached to them, it wouldn't be able to dive deeply, and it certainly wouldn't be able to stay down there for long periods of time. Okay, so we're getting in the shark cage. This is how we're dealing with the shark now. We're gonna stick it with a needle. Running out of options, I guess. But I love the fact that the shark cage is making an appearance in this movie. And you know what? Shark cages are amazing. They are really a fantastic scientific tool. Shark cages allow us to get up close and personal to animals, which can be very useful. We can observe their behavior while under the water, which is very helpful. But also we can use it to get close to them to take tissue samples. That's something that we commonly do. They'll swim past the cage and we'll use a small device that basically reaches out through the cage and grabs a little bit of tissue. We can also be under the water and use it to attach things to the shark, like a tag, which can be used to either track them swimming through the water or simply identify them later. I have to say, it's a pretty small cage for a pretty big shark. I would be a little bit worried. And it's still got the barrels attached, and there's 3. There's no way this animal is able to dive the way it's being shown to dive with all of those buoyant barrels attached to its back. No way. What I do like about this movie, though, is yes, they had a mechanical shark, but they also intercut a lot of real footage of sharks in the water, which is pretty cool. It's a little more authentic that way. Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, no. Not good. White sharks are known sometimes to go at cages and attack them, but we don't really know if in every circumstance they're attacking them because they're being aggressive, so much as they're just being curious about, hey, what is this cage and what are these weird animals inside this cage? In this case, of course, it does seem pretty aggressive. Yeah, that cage is not really serving a purpose anymore. I'd be trying to figure out how to get out of that cage. Oh, not a bad survival strategy here though. Stabbing the shark on the top of the head. Shark skulls are not as strong or as tough as human skulls. They're a bit thinner. They're made of different material. They're made of cartilage, not bone. So yeah, you could actually get a knife through the skull of a shark. If it was a big enough knife, you had enough force, you could definitely do that. Okay, so he's gonna swim down. Again, maybe not a bad survival strategy. It might be harder for the shark to find you if you're down beneath it. Definitely sharks like to attack their prey from below, or white sharks do at least, again, where they swim up and attack you at the surface. So yeah, swimming down, maybe not a bad survival strategy there. You could definitely hide if you were near the bottom. So what's the strategy here? Yeah, that would probably deter it. I would be going for the eyes, I would be going for the gills. These are vulnerable parts of the shark that it definitely doesn't want to be injured. If you injure it there, it would probably go away in fear. The other strategy, again, trying to go through the skull. You injure the brain, instant kill potentially.
All right.
Obviously that didn't work very well.
All right, come on. Show me the tank.
All right, here we go.
Show me the tank. Blow up.
Okay, so you can see from this scene, it's actually the bottom of the tank that's facing outward. So he's trying to shoot the bottom of the scuba tank.
Blow up.
In the real version of this story, he's dead.
Smile, you son of a...
So cool. So fake. We've kind of already been through this earlier, but if you shot a scuba tank like this, it would not blow up. If you managed to shoot a hole through the scuba tank, all that compressed air would just shoot out of the hole, which could cause that tank to fly around. Honestly, it would have worked out a lot better for him if the valve end of the tank was facing outwards of the mouth, because yeah, it's a smaller target, but you'd be way more likely, I think, to break the valve of the tank and cause air to fly out than shoot a hole through the tank. That seems really unlikely. So yeah, I think the odds were against any of this working out for Chief Brody. All right, everyone, that was the movie Jaws and everything that it got right and wrong about shark science. Tell me, what did you think of the movie? Is it one of your favorite movies? Do you hate it? Was there any science that I missed or got wrong? I'd love for you to tell me. Honestly, the crazy thing about this movie for me is I know how many things this movie gets wrong about shark research and what sharks are really like. And I know this movie has spread some really terrible and awful, dangerous myths about sharks' behavior that has really led to people fearing these animals. And you don't need to be afraid of them. I know all of that. And yet, every time I watch this movie, all I can think is, God, this this movie is just so good. I think the thing with this movie is it's okay to enjoy it. It is a great film, but when you're watching it, it is so important to remember that it is not in any way an accurate depiction of true shark behavior or really shark science and research in general. So yeah, go ahead and love and enjoy this movie. Just don't take it for real. This is not how real sharks behave. All right, that's everything from me. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Spread it around on your socials. It really helps me out here on the channel. And of course, hit that bell to be notified about the next reaction video I do. Maybe Jaws 2? See you next time.